Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Mashpee School Committee business meeting of January 3rd, 2024. Our first order item on the agenda is to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Mashpee Public Schools recognize and honor the many generations of Wampanoag people who live here and have been sustained in this territory for more than 10,000 years. Our next agenda item is to ratify the agenda of January 3rd, 2024. There are a couple of changes I'd like to let the committee know about. We do not have a representative from the Tribal Education Department tonight, so we can cross that off for this meeting today. And also, Assistant Superintendent Hanscom is not here tonight, so we will be moving her agenda item of the AP performance and MCAS data from 2023 to a future meeting. That being said, does anyone see anything else that they wish or have any questions on? If not, I will entertain a motion to ratify tonight's agenda as with edits.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
One second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Dan?
I vote yes.
Don?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
And I also am a yes. Thank you. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment tonight? Thank you. And now, I think we're going to be maybe traveling down a yellow brick road, I believe. So I think we're going to get up and the screen is going to move. So bear with us as we all change our spaces here.
Before you guys move up, we do have a couple things we want to say.
Sure.
That's all right.
That's fine.
All right. We're gonna need to move, but I guess we're gonna leave the screen there. That's preferred. Because they need to be able to go behind it. So we'll still be able to see them on the table. All right. You guys hear me all right?
Yeah.
All right, so tonight we're going to feature the Quashnet School Theater Club. This is a program that we need to give Miss Anesi, one of our fifth grade teachers, a lot of credit for. This is her third year doing it, and she's really built it from the ground up. Last year they performed, help me out.
Last year we performed
Alice in Wonderland.
Alice in Wonderland. We also performed Robin Hood.
Alice in Wonderland and Robin Hood, and this year we are doing The Wizard of Oz. There's a performance next week. We'll do two in school, so all the kids at school will see it. But I really want Mr. Nasty to tell you about it because she is the one who puts in the hard work with the kids. They're here 3 days a week, and her mom comes every day and volunteers as our assistant director. Patty, where are you? So we got to give Patty a lot of credit. She puts in a lot of time. And this is a really popular club. Mr. Nessie makes it fun, and we do 2 a year, and every time we do signups, we get over 40 kids. So it's a really, really successful club.
I am short too. I am so proud to be here to represent all my kids, all my theater kids. The Quashnet Theater is open to grades 3 through 6. So we have students in all grades. And I think the best part of it is that we have everyone. We have the littlest to our oldest, all on equal footing. And we're all a big family. We all work together. It is a supportive group. I do the scripts to make sure that everyone has a speaking part. So if you join, you're sure to be a part of it and be able to speak, and have a part, or have many parts, or 3 parts, as some of them do. And so it's an absolutely fantastic opportunity for them to, not to learn not to be afraid, not to get up there and take a chance, to take a risk, and to do it. And the result, the reactions from their peers afterwards is like the best part of it, where they will come up to them afterwards, and that's so amazing, you did that. And they get to be like these superstars for this moment. And it's such an awesome opportunity. And I'm lucky to be able to do it with them. In Wizard of Oz, we have 36 students, ranging from grades. Our performance is next week. A little nervous, but we are very, very excited to be able to put it on. We'll do 2 shows for the school. We'll do a show for the 3rd and 4th graders, and then the 5th and 6th. And then at night, we will do a show that is open to the public. So that's January 11th at 6 p.m. And it is open to all. Admission is free, and we hope that we, can sell the place out. So tonight, you are going to see a scene from the middle of the show. So I'll give you a little bit of what has happened. Is we have Dorothy, who has ended up in Oz and met her 3 friends, and they're trying to get back. She's trying to get back home. They're trying to get what they need, and the wizard has told them that they had to kill the Wicked Witch of the West, which they have melted her. And now they're coming back to get what they want, and it doesn't go exactly as planned. So right before this scene happens, the winged monkeys have dropped them off at the gates to Emerald City. And then you'll see what happens. So, set up now. You will see Jeannie Ewing as, you'll see Jeannie Ewing as Dorothy. You will see Jack Franzago as the Scarecrow, Ryan Bird as the Tin Man, Evan Dudley as the Cowardly Lion, Jameson Hughes as the Wizard of Oz, and Kira Cannon as the Guardian of the Emerald City.
Quick question before we go, if you
Sure.
don't mind. Do you see this program ever like taking the production on the road, like to, I don't know, the Coombe School and showing the younger kids, or even to maybe the middle high school and doing like a production for the other grades, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, that's something we would definitely love to do. Absolutely. It's so we, expanded to do our 3 performances to make sure that the whole school can see it. Because a lot of times the kids can't come back after the night, so we've performed it for the school. One other thing I wanted to add is that we've also done a collaboration with the painting club. Delaney Matthews, who is one of our special education teachers, has an after-school painting club. So her students have painted all of our backdrops, which you see behind you, and they designed and then painted all of the backdrops for the show, which is a really exciting thing to have students who may not want to be on stage still get to be a part of it and show their talents. Next year, we're hoping to also include like a prop and costume after-school activity so that they can also be a part of it, and the whole thing can just be a creation of the students. So not just those who are on stage, but those who are backstage as well, which is really cool. This is our first time doing
The tech crew is
all
just
this.
as important as the
Yes,
stage crew. So.
absolutely. I was crew, so I'll absolutely stand up for the crew. So we are really excited to show you our scene.
One quick question. You mentioned January 11th, 6 p.m.
Yes.
location?
Here at Quashnet, in the cafeteria. There's a little stage in there. Which, we have a stage.
That's what I assumed, but
Yeah.
just for the audience that may be watching this on TV, to let them know where to go.
Yes.
Any other questions from the committee? All right, well, take it away. If they move it, they just need to get behind it. Are you sure you don't want to? So if you put it a little ahead, would they have enough room? Or got it? Yeah. I didn't realize you guys were pictures. Don, get your Gatorade too.
What's that?
Your Gatorade.
Oh.
It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
That was fun.
Yes. Yes, it was. And quick out of our troubles. How lovely was it that you got that wonderful cat?
What? You are back again? I thought you had gone to visit the Wicked Witch of the West. We did visit her. And she let you go? She cannot help it because you see she melted. Melted? Well, that is good news. Who melted her?
It was Dorothy.
Good gracious, you better come with me.
I am Oz, the great and terrible. Why do you seek me?
Where are you?
I am everywhere. With the eyes of common mortals, I am invisible.
We have come to claim our promise, Great Oz.
What promise?
You promised to send me back to Kansas once the Wicked Witch was destroyed. And you promised to give me brains.
You promised to give me a heart.
You promised to give me courage.
Well, is the Wicked Witch really destroyed?
Yes, I melted her with a bucket of water.
Well, dear me, how sudden, come see me tomorrow. I must have time to think it over. You've had enough time already.
We won't wait a day longer. You must keep your promises to us.
I am Oz, the great and terrible. Please don't trick me. Please don't do anything you want me to do.
Are you not a great wizard?
Hush, don't speak so loudly, or you may be overheard and I should be ruined. I'm supposed to be a great wizard.
Aren't you?
Not a bit. I'm just a common man.
You're a trickster.
Exactly so. I am a trickster.
But this is terrible. How will we get the things we need?
Don't speak of these little things when you can think of me. In the terrible, terrible trouble I'm in at being found out.
Doesn't anyone else know that you're a trickster?
No one knows it but you four, and myself. I fooled everyone for so long, I thought I'd never be found out. Well, I should have never let you four in the throne room. Usually I never see my subjects until they believe I'm something great and terrible.
How did you do all of this?
By tricks, I have many talents.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself for being such a trickster.
I am. I certainly am. But there was nothing else I could do. I come from Omaha.
That's close to Kansas.
Yes, it is, but it's not close to here. You see, I was a balloonist and I flew out air balloons. One day my balloon got blown off course and I ended up here. They thought I was a wizard, so I had them build a city. It was so green that I called it the Emerald City.
That makes sense.
Well, we ran out of emeralds, so we had to put these green glasses on everybody so all they would see is green. But to make a long story short, I'm ashamed to say I cannot keep my promises.
I think you are a very bad man.
No, I'm a very good man, just a very bad wizard, I must admit.
Can you give me brains?
You don't need brains. A baby has brains, but it doesn't know much. You learn something new every day, and experience is the only thing that brings knowledge. And the longer you live, the more experience you are sure to have.
That may all be true. I'll be very unhappy unless you give me my brains.
Very well then, I will stuff your head with brains tomorrow. But I cannot tell you how to use them, however. You must figure that out for yourself.
Thank you very much. I will find a way to use them, never fear.
What about my courage?
You don't need courage. All you need is confidence. Everyone's afraid when they face danger, but true courage is still facing that danger even when you are afraid. And that kind of courage you surely have.
Perhaps I have, but that doesn't make me any braver. I will always be a coward, and it will make me very unhappy unless you give me the sort of courage that makes someone forget that they are afraid.
Very well then, I will give you that sort of courage tomorrow. What about my heart? I think you are wrong to want a heart. It makes most people very unhappy. You were lucky not to have a heart.
That would be a matter of opinion. For my part, I'll bear all the inhabitants that are worth you will give me my heart.
Very well then, I might as well play this wizard part a little bit longer. Come to me tomorrow and you will have a heart.
How do I get back to Kansas?
Give me 2 or 3 days to consider this matter, and I'll try to find a way to carry you across the desert. There's just one thing I ask in return. Do not tell anyone I am a trickster.
It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I help you at the time of your life.
And if you want to know what happens next, you'll have to come see the show on January 11th, which is next Thursday at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Nancy, can we get a picture with you and your mom?
Yeah.
Maybe a small. Oh,
Come on.
I'm gonna do that.
We want one more picture. We want you
back here. More pictures. Your adoring public wants your picture.
They should come right in front.
Yeah, guys, go to the front. You're the stars. It's all about you guys. Yeah, right here.
You all in? Awesome. Great job, guys.
Oh, yeah, microphones came out.
So when you all earn your Tony Awards or Oscars or Emmys, we can say we saw you here first. And you better mention Mashpee in your acceptance speech, Mrs. Nessie, your parents. Great job, guys. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming out. Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, we're not locked in. There we go. All right. A little theater for the night. All right.
I was tripped over the light fell over.
No injuries, please. All right. Up next, we have the approval of the minutes from November 15th. So I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion to approve minutes as they stand.
Thank you, Dan. And I guess I will second unless Don wants to second. All right, so I will second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Don?
Yes.
Matt?
Abstain?
Brian?
Abstain.
And I am a yes. Okay. And now to approve the minutes of December 6th. I will again entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And a second.
I will second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Dan?
I vote yes.
Don?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Brian?
Abstain.
And I am a yes. Thank you. Okay. Okay. And now we are at the report of the Student Advisory Committee representative, and he will be leaving us tonight a little early, which is understandable because
Yeah, sorry, I have a lot
no,
of
you don't need
homework.
to. You don't need to apologize at all. So
I also have all my notes on my phone.
All right.
Sorry.
no, you don't need to apologize.
So, we've been not too busy because of winter break, but we've done a few things. The most major of them is that we've created a website to better communicate with our student body. We intend on sending it out in an email soon. Our council members, the people that show up here, are adding their bios, and my reports and our reports from these meetings will be updated from there. And I did have one question. Would you like us to send you that report before we put it out, just to make sure everything's okay?
It's your report, so you don't have
Okay.
to. The one thing that we do need to, I think, coordinate better for our next joint meeting is the agenda,
Okay, yeah.
which I think Superintendent DeBoer and myself will reach out to you and talk. You need to talk to your
Yeah.
committee and coordinate that a little bit better. But I think that's it. I don't think, I mean, unless the committee would like to see that report prior to it being posted, but
And you guys will have the link to the site too. I'll send it to you guys. Yeah. Also, we have one of our members, Eve Mann, I believe, has reached out to the Mashpee Minute to try and get us on there, but I don't know if we've heard back yet or not. Students are very happy that the art rooms are back, is what I've heard from everyone that I've talked to in the 2 days that it's been open, but everyone's very happy about that. And I have gotten approached with some issues about not having hand sanitizer or not having tissues in classrooms, and I didn't know if that was something I'd bring up here.
That would be
That'd be-
Principal
okay,
McSweeney.
sorry about that.
Yeah, no, you don't need to.
Um,
Again, it's that whole learning
Yeah.
operation versus what we
Um,
do.
Other than that, I didn't really have anything to talk about, but if you had any questions to ask me before I go.
Does anyone have anything they need to ask Andrew?
Alright, so I'm gonna head out.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, up next, we have the public hearing on the superintendent's recommended fiscal year 2025 Mashpee Public Schools budget. We discussed this at a previous meeting. We all got our binders, but tonight's like the official public hearing for anybody who wishes to weigh in on that.
And do you have to specifically?
I believe,
open
yes,
the
we do.
hearing?
So I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion.
And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Dan?
I vote yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. So the public hearing is now open. The floor is yours, Superintendent DeVore.
All right, so I do apologize, I have an issue with my voice. Seems to be an annual tradition at this time of year. This is the slide presentation that supports our FY25 budget. It is posted on our website, and it follows a line, or is aligned with the narrative that is also posted to the website. And it is very focused, in my opinion, on our students. So hopefully I'll be able to move this on. Okay, so this first sheet really just emphasizes we currently have 1,458 students. And as a district, these are things that we are proud of. Particularly for me, I love that Mashpee is a community that so values its education. We see it from our business community, from our families, from the town side as well. Other organizations within the community are very focused on children of this community and making sure their education is good. We work on making sure we have a culture of excellence, kindness, and respect. I tell every person that comes through the door that we hire that it is a whole child mindset, not a learner first. It's that whole human being in front of them. Our multi-tiered system of supports, which is part of our strategic plan, has been in place probably since 16. We continually remind teachers of it, but it is the framework around which we do all of our work, making sure that we provide the best sort of tier 1 universal education in the classrooms. Multi-age learning opportunities. I love that our schools are closely located geographically, and we have multiple opportunities where high school kids come down and Quashnet and Coombs kids interact. Talked about strong community partnerships we have with the tribe, we have with Southport, we have with the town. We did get recognized in 21 for our work with equity. We're very proud of the fact that none of our students are charged fees. That is not common in other districts, and it is something that is reinforced by the support we get for our budget from our Mashpee community, because they could easily say, we think you should implement fees because we don't want to pay as much in the budget. And I will say that our 3 school buildings, which fall under the responsibility of the Department of Public Works for Mashpee, are really well maintained. This school, which is the oldest school building, is beautiful. All of our buildings. So to the custodians and maintenance department, they really do an outstanding job of making sure our schools are beautiful, which I think messages a message of importance to our kids. It always has mattered to me of what we present to them is what we value, and we want them to have the best space. If you have questions along the way, feel free to stop me. Okay, so this is the next slide, right?
Yes.
Okay. This gives an overview of the FY20. You can see some comparisons to FY24. So my recommended budget is $26,241,581. That is a 4.15% increase over our FY24. We take away from that our school choice program funds. And if you recall, we always spend our school program funds 1 year in arrears so that we have a known number based on what was actually that prior year. So you take that away, the budget is $25,484,353 that we would be requesting from the town. The only other thing we take out of that is for this year, it's $50,000, which is in Chromebook technology. We always put it in case CIP does not approve it. They have always approved it, but it is a necessity for us to have it. It's not like if CIP doesn't approve it, well, then it gets pushed to the next year. So we have to make sure it's one place or the other, but the town understands that. So if all of that, if the 50,000 is approved, which is next week, we will request from the town $25,434,353. A very important part of our operations is guided by our strategic plan, which is called the Plan for Success. This particular budget of FY25 will be the 4th year of our Plan for Success. So next year we will be gathering stakeholders again and assessing our progress on it and deciding what we would want to change as we move forward for future years. But there are 4 pillars of success, or 4 areas or umbrellas. The Portrait of a Graduate is one area. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, teaching and learning is the 3rd area, and Mashpee a Connected Community. Each one of those has one objective under it, although there are multiple initiatives under it. So the first one is fully implement Mashpee's Portrait of a Graduate. So when we first started this plan, we were lucky enough to have developed our portrait prior to, which was really not necessarily planned ahead of time, but very necessary to have done it that way. And that was developed with a large group of stakeholders. So we want to make sure that it is living well, like it will be reflected on report cards this year, all of the things that sort of make sure we all know what it means. In the second objective for diversity, equity, and inclusion is to honor diversity, provide equity, and ensure inclusion throughout the Mashpee Public Schools. That's very multifaceted. It's screening tools we use for curriculum. It's doing everything we can, or trying to do the best we can to bring BIPOC members to our staff. It's looking at activities and participation and offerings that we have. It's reaching out to our English language learner communities, our various groups within, our Native Americans, our Black students, all of our students, trying to make sure we're looking at everything through the lens of that family and that student. Teaching and learning is to fully align teaching and learning pre-K to 12 with the multi-tiered system of supports. I think prior to COVID, this was much more robust, and then we had to bring it back after COVID, and so we had a lot of sort of retraining with staff and clarification of expectations. And then Mashpee Connected Community is strengthen and grow positive reciprocal relationships between the district and the community. Relationships are at the key of everything that we do. That's another thing we talk about with every staff member who comes in who's new. For me, it's about relationship building, and it's one-on-one relationships with students, it's relationships among colleagues, and definitely with our families and the community. And that really makes a difference for how kids can perform. That is our Portrait of a Graduate. The 5 competencies that we have are purposeful, collaborator, and communicator, engaged citizen, resilient me, empowered knowledge seeker, and critical thinker and problem solver. Within each of those competencies, there are descriptors, but we are trying to make sure that every student, and our portrait is a pre-K to 12 vision. Some school districts use a high school vision. So along the way, we've done a lot of work where teachers have students be able to demonstrate and say, I am an empowered knowledge seeker, and here's an example of why I can say that in 2nd grade or in 4th grade. So with all of those areas, it's meant to be a building block along. It's not just a high school teacher responsibility. Any questions? This is just the timeline of this budget. As a reminder, and I do talk about this every year, because of the charter, the timing of this process is very early. So we start in the early spring of 2023 to develop the FY25 budget. There's a lot of unknowns in our budget. We do the best we can in terms of personnel, special education, transportation, and out-of-district placements, but there are unknowns. So trying to get everyone to understand the process, we start with basically zero base. It starts at the teacher level. They submit, not on a personnel side, but they submit their wants and needs for their the classes that they teach. That then gets sort of consolidated and reviewed at the principal level. The principal submits his or her school's budget. Then we, as a district leadership team, meet with generally the assistant superintendent and director of finance and myself, meet with each principal, and we go line by line on everything that they've asked for, and we make sure is it a valid request? What's the why behind it? Then from there, it gets reviewed by the finance working group within the school committee. That's usually a summer activity to make sure, and that's 2 members of the committee. They sort of get the deeper briefing that we then share with the whole committee. And so then, but by September, or October 1st, September 30th, the end of September, we have to submit our FY25 budget, which is, that point is, and like it is still my recommended budget, to the town, and it gets put into their munis system, their accounting system, which is, this is still, we start this like 18 months ahead of when we're actually going to start this at the fiscal year. October through December, we have talked about the budget at various meetings and had an opportunity for the whole committee to ask questions. On December 12th, we took our budget to he had it, but the town manager reviews the budget, and so that's with 1 select board member, 1 FinCom member, or 2 various members on the town side. And we go through our budget narrative and we present pretty much what I'm doing now, although I didn't use slides for them. They had a hard copy. The December 22nd in the newspaper, that's also a specific date you get at it through backing backwards, but that's when our my recommended budget was published in the newspaper, which is the Enterprise. Tonight is the public hearing on the budget. On January, it's actually January 10th, I believe, we will go before the CIP committee to present our requests, which are in this a little bit later. I want to point out, though, CIP request for the schools also comes under the DPW. So Catherine Laurent, the director, she will be presenting some things as well, because anything related to the buildings and grounds would fall under her. At the next school committee meeting on the 17th is when the school committee will vote. We have not received any feedback from the town manager from the December 12th meeting. Sometimes there are messages that come. I think it was last year, it was after the school committee voted, so they had to come back and figure out if we could adjust to what the town manager requested. The 18th, so the day after, we have to have the school committee's voted budget to the town. And then we always go before the FinCom committee to present our budget, and then town meeting is May 6th. So, any questions on that? All right. So some of the guidelines that we use in order to develop our FY25 budget is, first of all, we have to ensure that all the legal and contractual mandates are met. This budget includes sufficient operating and capital funds to address the 4th year of our plan for success, to provide the current level of educational services to all Mashpee students, to move the district forward in meeting the technology demands or the technology services that we need in our educational classrooms, updates curriculum where it's needed, and then addresses the increasing social emotional needs of students. And sometimes that's programming or staffing. It also assumes a $250,000 floor in the school choice program that we would be able to access for emergencies and unanticipated expenses. And then the 4th one, it is assuming that the ongoing practices and protocols to maintain facilities that are healthy and safe for staff and students are funded through the DPW. This we put in here only, post-COVID, because we don't want to go back to filters that we had before. We want the MERV 13, hand sanitizer, which apparently Andrew said is not accessible, or the soap, I'm not sure what he meant. Sanitizing wipes, disinfectant, and we added this year the batteries for the touch-free sinks and toilets because we found out they're not working well, and it's probably a battery issue. So that, though, has to be part of the DPW budget. but we want to make sure everyone's on the same page. Any questions? Thoughts? This slide shows the revenue sources. So total grants, we're projecting at 800,000, basically no change from FY24. School choice program funds, as we discussed, we are projected to use the 757,228. That is the revenue from the school choice program from FY24, correct, Ashley? Yes. Town of Mashpee appropriation that we're asking for is the 25,434,353, and then the Chapter 70 state aid that goes to the town is 4,858,266. That's an unknown at the time, but we're not. What did you see? Right, it's not projecting to be any a decrease. So. And then in addition to the annual cost of all of that, as when Ashley does her report for DESE, we also include from the facility side, the custodials to the schools, maintenance grounds, employee health insurance gets added back into our expenses, and then capital projects related to the facilities. Any questions? Okay. I don't want to jinx myself. I haven't had to take a drink yet, so of water. Okay, so this is our personnel side. Personnel is the biggest piece of our budget. It always hovers around 80% of our total monetary needs, which makes sense. So for FY25, the personnel budget is $20,659,084. And you can see that that's a 4.59% increase over 24. So as of September 30th, which is when we submitted everything, the proposed personnel budget includes estimated wages for the Mashpee Teachers Association Unit B, which are all of our assistant principals, pretty much assistant principals, and then some of the director positions at the high school. And for non-union positions, the Teachers Association, which is Unit A, and Unit C, which are the paraprofessionals and clerical, those increases are known or were known at that time, so they are definitely concrete in there. It includes the addition of a part-time data analyst as a pilot for FY25, specifically using that lens of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging as they review a lot of the data that we have in the district that we have not been able to dive deep enough into. And then the FY25 personnel budget includes known contractual increases at Quashnet, Mashpee Middle High School, and in the curriculum and technology budget. And it reflects some unanticipated personnel changes and resulting salary changes in step and lanes. There's no increase in FTEs. So we always look at so Quashnet had some retirees, and we tend to budget sort of masters, sort of a middle step, but we brought in a more veteran staff that wanted to sort of switch from their districts, and they're very highly qualified. So we try to sort of balance it out. We do want the best teachers in front of our students. So that's a little bit of a hike that in that particular line. And the 7.55 reflects the addition of the pilot, proposed pilot. Okay. That's just the graphic of where our personnel falls in terms of the schools. So you can see from last year to this year, there's a little bit of a decrease in our special education staffing. And then the other piece is a little bit of an increase in the Quashnet from 18 to 19%, but everything else pretty much stayed as it does, which you would expect. At least I would. For the FY25 operational side, so these are the non-personnel expenses, and you can see it's broken down by school and other categories. We try to highlight the changes, the percent changes that sort of pop out at you. And we can talk about those. It might be on the next slide, I think. But you can see that that operational side increased 3.75%. Let me see if it's on the next slide. Well, we might have to go back to that one. So that just shows you the operational side. And the big piece is transportation. So it was 45.9% of that year's budget, last year's budget, compared to, or I should say the current year's budget, to 47.6 in the FY25 budget. Out of districts dipped quite a bit because we have children who age out at 22, and so obviously that's a savings there. And sometimes they do relocate to other communities. Any questions on that?
Superintendent DeVore?
Yes.
Question, the transportation increase, does that include, is it just the cost is increasing, or have there been changes to our model?
Not changes to our model, but Ashley could pop in on that.
Yes, so wage increases and also overhead costs of the collaborative.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, as a reminder, our transportation bus program is through the Cape Cod Collaborative, and so that's a little bit different than some of the other towns.
Any word on after-school bus? Is it included in the budget for the high school? Because I know we're still looking, do we still keep that item?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we have the bus for that, we just don't have the driver. So if anyone out there is listening who would like to just do an after-school run for our high school kids, that would be outstanding. Because this is really a full year that we're going without it, and we didn't have it last year either.
It's an equity thing too, in a
It
sense,
is,
because
yeah.
kids can't stay after school for clubs.
They don't have a ride.
They don't have the ride home, and after-school help
Yep,
from teachers, not as easily available for some kids, so.
yes.
And we keep that in the budget.
Okay.
It's been projected out. It's still in our budget for this year. Whenever we have that driver who is willing to do the run, we will start it.
Thank you.
Two questions on that particular page. One in regard to district administration. Can you elaborate on that increase?
Ashley, do you have the narrative in front of you?
Yeah, I can because I know the numbers, but those are really just contractual costs. So we've increased our audit fees. I don't know if those are going to be next year, but I've included an increase on that. The cost of supplies in general are going up, so I added a few additional dollars in that, so we're not under budget. Also, it sounds silly, but copiers and printers are very important for a school district, so the cost of those contracts go up, and we just got a new contract.
Are those, so the cost of copiers is at the district level versus at the individual school?
It is.
Okay. Other question I had was, thank you for that. The other question I had was in regard to athletics and the big jump there, if you could please expound on that.
That's primarily due to transportation. We use the collaborative as much as we can, but we need to go outside of the collaborative to get other vendors to provide us transportation for our athletic trips. Also, again, the cost of supplies is just more expensive, and we've been seeing a trend of athletics needing a little bit additional money to support their supply lines.
Does the gate receipts from athletics, which I know is in a revolving fund, get utilized?
Yes, that number is offset by $25,000 in the revolving account.
I thought we still had a surplus in that account, though. I don't know if we got it in this packet. It's your budget stuff or not.
It's not in the budget stuff, but it is in my report for tonight. Currently in the athletic revolving account, we have $27,000.
So have we historically taken 25,000, or is there a floor that we maintain in that account?
There's no floor in the account. We do take it. We do take money each year out of that account. It's not always $25,000 to the dollar. If they don't expend all of their athletic account in the general fund, then I don't dip the whole $25,000 out of revolving.
Right. But you haven't taken more to offset that.
No, because there's only $27,000.
Well, it's fine. So the 27,000 that's in there right now is with or without you taking out the 25 for FY24?
Without.
Without.
That's just the amount of money that's in the account. So I expend the general fund first, and then I will expend the revolving account.
Okay, thank you. Good.
Any questions?
Not on that page.
So this is just looking at our historical budget and the increase. You will note in FY23, The town ended up giving us a 0.44% increase in the end, and that was because the voters went with the town manager's recommendation of a $400,000 reduction to the school committee approved budget. So that was one of those changes after you had voted on it. But generally, you can sort of see the funding each year that we have received. Any questions? This chart shows the rate of growth over the years. We've gone from FY16 to FY23. Actual expenditures are shown in blue. Obviously, we can only go as far as FY23 for that because we don't know our actual expenditures this year. And then the percent growth is shown there in orange. It's just some data points for you. This is our district enrollment, and we have projected for FY25 pretty much a flat enrollment. For FY24, as of 10/1, it was 1452, but in an earlier slide, I believe it showed 1458. It fluctuates all the time. But going by, if we go by the DESE, I don't know that DESE's actually put that out yet for this year, but anyway, they certify our numbers based on October. So you can see currently, the Coombs School, we've projected for FY25 at 399, the Quashnet School at 404, and the high school 7 through 12 at 656. We do sort of move students along. We make an assumption of the students who may choose an alternative to the Mashpee Middle High School in between grades 8 and 9, sort of looking at some historical information. We look at birth rates as we try to figure out pre-K. So there's some unknowns in there. Well, many unknowns. And then this is our FY25 personnel budget, but it does show you FY16 all the way through projected for 25 in terms of our full-time equivalent, and these are teachers. And so we're not showing adding any additional teachers for FY25, which later tonight we'll talk about a little bit of sort of the resources we have available and the potential to reallocate a little bit. This is the capital improvement for FY25. So like I said, we are requesting the $50,000 Chromebook leases, which is something we do every year. And then $25,000 is for food services kitchen equipment upgrades. We generally have that in there every year to make sure that our kitchens, which for a period of time weren't getting upgraded, but we have been in a better rotation program recently to make sure that we're replacing some of the original equipment to some of the kitchens, some of the equipment we don't even use, so putting in what they do need. The FY25 Mashpee DPW CIP request is flooring replacement, all 3 schools. That's an ongoing request they have every year. The high school flooring that was put in this summer, I know that they're looking at doing the cafeteria floor, but they have areas that the principals support and identify, like, this room needs to be addressed. Fire alarm upgrades are part of Catherine's CIP request. Coombs safety and security window films. So we are able to do Quashnet and the Mashpee Middle High School this year. And what it does is it puts this film on the windows that they become bulletproof, basically. We inquired about it after the school shooting down south, where the shooter came through the double glass doors, just like went right through. And so we've had the quote for a while, and because Coombs has so much glass, theirs sort of reaches the level of CIP. Each of the other 2 schools are under that 25, so we're able to do that this year, and that's happening February. So that will be across the front windows, particularly at Mashpee Middle High School, the cafeteria, all the entrances that are all double glass doors, so that will not be a vulnerable area. And then Quashnet and KCC were really at the early stages of fighting for a connecting road between this school and Coombs that would greatly detangle some of the traffic woes that we face. We're going to make sure that it includes sort of the pedestrian walkway. We have been working with Safe Routes to School, is that what it is? It's a, is that DESE or Mass?
It's a joint force, but
It's a joint force with Massachusetts and the Department of Education, and so we had them come down and analyze and collect data on our arrival and dismissal at each of the 3 schools. That was in October. Then they came back and did a report and provided us with a report of things we can do now. They're mostly focused on alternatives to using transportation, so getting kids to walk, which is not a feasible plan in Mashpee. It's more of a city thing. However, participating in this program sets us up well for submitting a grant in August. That will probably be something we can use towards this road plan, and that's why we'll make sure it includes that pedestrian piece. So, but early stages, we have to get in there on the CIP sort of plan, and that's what Catherine's going to do for us there. Any questions? This is just the last slide that, every Thursday we try to gather pictures of our students. Some of them are resistant, so I never take pictures of kids who don't want to, but the families love the pictures. This year we shifted to having the message be about our portrait of a graduate. So we rotate between the 5 competencies that we have, and then I send an email every Thursday as well that lists the descriptors and asks that teachers share those with the students so that they can have that better understanding. And I forget, was Mary Kate, Principal O'Brien had the funny story where it was the I Am Resilient, right? So her pre-K to 2 kids, making sure we try to ask the kids, do you know what that means? Can you tell me what it means to be an engaged citizen? But when Mary Kate, what grade was that student? A kindergartner. He held the sign up, and I think he asked you what it said, or you told him what it said. So she says, it's I am resilient. And he said, but I am Portuguese. And so it was like, that was such a cute opportunity it was adorable. I will say, I think all of our kids are adorable, even the ones in the bigger bodies, but there's something about those pre-K to 2 kids that when you try to see the world through their perspectives, it just like brightens your day. I will tell you that yesterday when I was there, it was kindergarten lunch. And I had my black coat on, which has like fur. It's the only reason I can think they thought this. But the little girl goes, you look like a queen. I said, oh my God, you're making my day. I said, I don't have a crown. She was going to make me a crown out of her mixed fruit. But it was like every child you ask about their vacation or anything, they have just stories that sort of renew your hope for the world. Like, stop watching the news, just come visit these kids. And I will say, Quashnet kids are amazing. You saw that tonight. And then the middle high school kids, I love seeing the world through their perspective too. I mean, we have our student advisory, superintendent advisory group that we meet once a month, and we do lunch with them. And they just have such insightful thoughts to share. And I love that connection. So this is just a group of our kids with our Thursday signs, and they're really the reason why, we do what we do and try to do it the best we can every single day. So I will entertain any other questions you might have.
Well, thank you for the presentation. Before I open questions from the committee, we do have members of the public here, and as it is a public hearing, if you have any questions for Superintendent DeVore or anything about the budget, I welcome you to the microphone. If not, that's okay. Could you go to the microphone, state your name, all that fun stuff.
Is it like the same structure as like public comment or, okay, just to give
Well, public hearing, you can talk a little longer.
Okay.
Huh?
I'll
Yes.
try not to talk to you.
Just to go back and sit.
Oh, you're gonna sit there?
Yeah, sit there so I can see.
I didn't write this. Hi, my name is Victoria Hare. I am a Mashpee community member. I have a parent. I'm a parent of 2 children, one at KC Coombs and one at Quashnet. Hello. Thank you for the time to be here and to learn about the plans for the upcoming year and kind of get some information. I do have a few questions around how this is structured and some of the wording, just to be sure that I understand what it means. So the few things that I wrote down to talk about were, as far as operational costs are concerned, I'm not really sure where DEIB work falls under that. And also, in one of the earlier slides, they're talking about what the goals of this budget proposal were. And One of them was in addressing the social emotional needs of students, either through staff or programming. So I kind of lumped that into DEIB work too. And I'm just wondering where those two elements show up in the operational costs, or how they show up.
You're not going to see it necessarily as a line item except for that additional data analyst position. It is integrated in the expectations in every classroom. It is in the curriculum that we review, opportunities we provide. So there are layers of, within our current staffing and the counseling support for social emotional, there are programming in place, whether it's the ADL mentors at every level that are focused on that. So it's really, for me, it's very pervasive in everything.
Okay, so is there any specific programming or staffing then that we're bringing in to focus on implementing certain, so you get the data analyst, which is a great position, and I'm sure you'll learn a lot through that. But once we have that information, is there a budget to respond to that information in fiscal year 25?
I don't think we need a specific line item to respond. We are well resourced. It is the teachers on the front line who do the bulk of the work and the counselors. Mm-hmm. And so it's making sure that they have received the PD training to be sort of culturally responsive and really being able to notice when situations arise that need attention in terms of a big piece would be the student interactions with each other. So there's not a separate item needed for that, in my opinion.
Okay.
It's all in there.
So in my mind, I think of a program like Calmer Choice. And I think Mashpee had
we have had Calmer Choice
with them in the past. Are we going to be implementing anything or focusing on any work like that in the schools?
I don't know. I don't know if the principals want to address it, but I know that I get at Coombs with the PBIS program. Our counselors are trained in we use the Calm Classroom, mm-hmm. which has sort of strategies for kids to use. But the Calmer Choice, that used to be much more prominent, mm-hmm. Sort of did fade away, but many teachers are trained in that.
Okay, so it'll be more of a reliance on the training that our teachers are getting and ensuring that they're implementing that in the classrooms.
Yes, because we plan all of the PDs, so trying to make sure on our half days, what we provide and focus on is then what we look for in the classrooms. So one example in terms of the work that Dr. Warnham is doing, I'll be sharing it when I do my goals, but an 8th grade teacher shared how there was a comment made to an Asian student in her classroom, and she didn't think that the boy who said it heard her, that she heard him, but she did. And so she said in her email to me, she said, I used what Dr. Warnham taught me, and I entered it with from a perspective of wanting to understand, and I said to him, why did you say that? And he couldn't explain why. And then speaking to the other student, she's been sort of enduring comments like that from this particular student and others. And so in that moment, it became the time when that teacher could address that, which wasn't something that teachers had gained a skill set for. They weren't super comfortable basically marking that moment and seeking to understand and approach it with curiosity. But we do I talk about that with everyone who comes in the district about that process, because that is a big one, of making sure that you can't just let it go. And sometimes when things happen to kids, they'll, they sort of shuffle it off, but it does sort of continue to erode their self-esteem and well-being. And if there's many years of it and they go along to get along, and that's not the environment that we're looking for. And so we really are working on that, and not all teachers are comfortable with it, but they're getting better at it. And I think the more tools and practice that we give them, the better they get.
Yeah. I mean, that's great that we're equipping our teachers that way and that the student could get the support that she needed. I do have a concern with that, adding that extra piece solely to the shoulders of the teachers and the staff that are currently so stretched and thin. I would think that does need to be a little bit more of a single responsibility of a staff member. I don't know if the data analyst member that you've put out would be the person that would do that. But I know in email correspondence, we've talked about doing a DIB projects and things like that that might really bring our engagement levels up. And operational budgets is a concern in doing things like that. You can't do, events or programming if you don't have it in a budget. And so I want to make sure that as we continue to work towards the 4 pillars and we're entering this 4th year with the DEIB work, that we are ensuring that we're having activities, right, and really engaging our community.
We are well-resourced, and I generally do not say no, and I will, for example, like at Quashnet on the 8th, they're doing a school-wide activity on No Place for Hate, and maybe when you speak on the Quashnet School, you can share that piece, Principal Switzer. But our budget does not preclude us from doing activities or holding events for anything that comes up that we may not have anticipated. Like we have Jason Cross from Dr. Warnham's company, I guess, coming to do assemblies for the high school students. He came last year as well. He's very impactful. Dr. Warnham's coming again to do a parent workshop. Not that she's the sole source. And I kind of want to push back a little bit on, we're not putting that on the teachers' shoulders. We as a district leadership team and our expanded leadership team take full responsibility, and we consider ourselves the DEI coordinator. You cannot, in my professional experience, have one person designated who's going to be able to impact a teacher's practice. If they will hear the message, but the person makes a difference too. And we feel that the relationships that our building leadership has with all of the teachers and the collaboration within each school is how we accomplish these goals. It is not a separate person that comes in and says, oh, I've looked at this and this is what I think you should do. It will not work. We've had instances in the past. But we do not expect teachers to handle the burden all on their own. We provide them with lots of support, modeling opportunities to collaborate, and some teachers are very effective with a certain group of students. Go watch what that teacher's doing, learn from each other. There's a lot of opportunities for that sharing.
Yeah, I definitely don't, and I hear with the pushback and maybe my vision of what that type of position would be is different than maybe what it comes across when I speak about it. But I definitely think it's about a community builder, that position.
We agree with that, a community builder.
Understanding the population and what the population needs. Yeah. And I think that there's such great work that's happening in the middle school, high school. And like you said, I think when students are interacting with these situations over and over again, it really impacts self-identity. And I don't have a background in academics and academic research, but what I have looked up, self-identity and self-acceptance really starts to peak at around 9 years of age. And we don't have a ton, it seems like, happening at Casey Coombs with this work. And Quashnet, I know that we have the No Place for Hate, and I'm really excited about that. I think that's great. But what are we doing earlier on, and how are we focusing early on to create that foundation for the kids? Because, I don't know, do we have anything like that at Casey Coombs that I just might not be aware of?
Well, all 3 schools are working on the No Place for Hate designation, but I know Principal O'Brien can talk about the PBIS system, which really does not only teach strategies for students to make better choices, recognizing the behaviors that we want, but it is a structure that allows the whole community to sort of develop together and grow. Maybe when you're sharing, you might want to share about that.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So then walking away, I'm taking away that there's not any specific budgeting or funding focused on doing any DEIB work. It's mostly just making sure that we stay up to date with PDs and that the PDs are relevant to that work. And then getting the data analyst to help us understand the data that we have currently around this.
Yeah, I think a big piece of it is looking at marginalized groups, all different kinds of ways of looking at the data, and that would inform, okay, we think we need to change this program, or there is a need at for this particular group of students. But I do think, from my perspective with relationship building, it's so important at our schools that our principals are very hands-on, our counselors are very connected. So when situations arise, they problem solve together and they try to put solutions in place specific to what we're seeing. And then there's a group at each school, it's called the SBLT. Their focus, school-based leadership team, is to problem solve sort of global problems of that school, whether it's attendance or whether it's a lack of diversity in staffing or whatever it is. They look at that global problem versus student-specific. So we have two different teams at every school that are geared towards student-specific problems and then school-wide trends, or a fourth grade trend when they look at fourth grade data. Okay, all of our students didn't do well in this area. Why is that? Let's look at more, this teacher's kids did great in that, these others didn't. What's the difference in the practices? So there's a lot of analysis that goes on, and we're grateful for our half days of looking at our practices. It is about the practices of what goes on in those classrooms where the kids spend the majority of their time.
Okay. I think that that's the only questions that I have right now. Thank you
You're welcome.
for
Thanks
the
for coming.
time and the patience, and wasn't easy to, organize myself on that one, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to comment at this time? Okay, I'll open up questions from the committee, if there are any.
So I guess I just have a quick question about the trends in enrollments, and I guess just a broader regional question. Are we seeing similar trends in other school districts at this point when it comes to kind of the decrease in plateau of enrollments?
There is, every district has its own challenges. Some have a little bit more challenges. So certain areas, they have growth because they have larger immigrant populations, because there are places for those families to find a home. I know, like in Bourne, their challenge is the Upper Cape Tech School being right in their town. So their high school sees quite a drop, and they're working on strategies for that. So generally on the Cape, we don't see growing populations. And the whole, that all goes back to sort of cause and effect and housing and all of that plays a role.
Thank you.
Generally flat, yes.
Any other questions, comments?
I do, if no one else does.
Floor is yours, Don.
So I just want to follow up from what I heard in regard to the interaction between Ms. Hare and the superintendent in regard to DEIB. So correct me if I'm wrong, but to paraphrase, what I'm hearing is that the data analyst that you're proposing in the budget as an addition to the budget, that the work that person is going to be doing then will help foster a knowledge transfer to the frontline teachers to be able to affect their work in the classroom. Is that?
And that position
Correct.
would also work with the district leadership team, and the principals play a significant role in this in terms of how messaging is delivered and what they want or see as the projects to work on.
Right, but
yes.
It's to help identify
Yes.
where there are issues that will help affect diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and to make sure that that's identified and that the message is transmitted through the proper channels ultimately down to the front line.
Correct.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I thought I took from that conversation, but I just wanted to make sure. So it's integrated into other than that individual position. So I wanted to follow up. You had made a comment during your presentation. I know you, the business manager, and the school committee chair met with the town manager and others in regard to the proposed budget. And the one item that was different from what the town manager had seen previously which had to be submitted back in October, and what was submitted most recently in December was the DEIB analyst position. And was there specific comment, was the town manager receptive to us adding that position, not receptive?
There were lots
Can
of
you
questions.
elaborate a little bit on that?
There were a bit of questions about it, with it being a new position. And I was just trying to look through the minutes. I know we presented it at one of our meetings. We had the job description and we had a discussion at, I want to say it was the December 6th meeting. So, we had kind of had that discussion as a committee at that meeting, saying, yes, please put that request forward. During the conversation, questions kind of came about of, similar to the questions that were asked by Ms. Hare and by you, like, what is the purpose of this? Like, what specifically is the end goal of this position? So we tried our best. I think Superintendent DeBoer did a very good job, and I know I also spoke up saying that, one of our goals and one of our commitments to the town and to our students is making sure our schools are inclusive, are equitable, and are a place where everyone feels welcome and able to learn, because we all know that those feelings impact learning and impact learning outcomes. It was, I think by the end there was an understanding. Was there an agreement? Not necessarily, but I think it was understood that this is beneficial to the schools because it does impact our decisions on curriculum. It does impact our decisions on staffing. It does impact our decisions on professional development. So having this data analyst at this, part-time pilot program, which, has potential to become more, but at this point is just this part-time pilot program. And as we discussed it with the town manager and other town representatives, that this is really beneficial in a sense to the district, because it's really going to allow us to focus our work even more and help increase our student achievement, as well as provide those supports for all students to find their place. So it was, it was a pretty involved conversation. It took a little bit of time, but I think in the end, there was an understanding of why we are requesting it, why we would like to see it implemented in our district, and, the benefits of such a position. So.
Yeah, they didn't have when you decided at the December 6th meeting, then by the 8th, I had sent a communication to the town manager, and then we went there on the 12th. We presented for about an hour, maybe a little over an hour, but a significant amount of the conversation was around the $50,000 pilot. And one of the questions seemed to keep going like, well, as if we're freeing up someone current obligations, and what are they going to be doing if they don't have to do this? And I'm like, well, we never fully get into looking at who participates on teams and all of the clubs, and beyond just the kid's name, like really looking at it. It's not currently in anyone's sort of to-do list because no one has the time to get in like they should. And so we kind of made sure we communicated the why behind it, and the fact that, we're not offloading tasks that someone currently has to make their life easier. So I don't know, though, how in the end it's going to go.
Yeah, Finance Committee, it felt like some of the members of the Finance Committee, understood, I think. I think, again, in the end, the town manager kind of had a better understanding, and I think the select board chair also had a slightly better understanding. Some of the questions also did kind of revolve around, once you have the data, then what? Which, at this point, because it's a pilot program, we are trying to get that baseline of where are we at right now. And I think that's kind of the crux of this position, in a sense, is we need to know where we are to start. We know there's something deficient. What is the deficiency specifically? And once we know, then we take the next step. It's unfortunately not going to give us all our answers at once, but I think it's a positive step forward. So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Don.
So the town manager was receptive and recognized that the school needs to be able to focus on DEIB, correct?
Well, I wouldn't say that exactly. Does he understand the ask at this point? Yes. I don't know that he necessarily agrees with our desire for the position or our need for the position.
Does he recognize the issue?
That was part of the questions that we were trying to answer for him, was to understand the issue and present it more than, I think, DEIB is one of those terms a lot of people are using, and I think it conjures up one section of what DEIB is. And so trying to expand that understanding of what DEIB is was part of the conversation. And I think, again, it was, our ask was understood, not necessarily.
Not necessarily sold.
No.
I got it.
Well, and I think just as we have obviously always opportunities to grow and be better in this area, I think the town of Mashpee does as well. And I'm not sure, that they are as far along of the continuum as I think we are. But anyway.
No, I recognize it. If that is adopted and moved forward as part of the overall school committee budget, that there is a sales job necessary to do that, and part of that is education of how this helps not only the students but also the town as a whole. And I think maybe that part of it did not or was not reflected upon at that conversation. But that being said, earlier in your presentation, I didn't catch you when you said this, but I thought I heard you say something about Unit B contracts not being finalized and that they were estimated in the budget. I thought that
So they were ratified in December, but remember, this is the budget that was submitted
in October.
October 1st.
Right. So are any revisions necessary based on the final contract, up or down?
No increases are required.
Okay. That's a slick way of saying that they could go down. Okay, very good. The other question I had was in regard to the electric bus program. I know that we're talking about that. We're starting to think about that. There's no request in regard to that particular program for FY25. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And that being why?
We don't have any information to make any educational funding recommendations at this point.
Or capital improvement?
Or capital improvements. The company that we're working with through the state is going to give us that information, and they are also going to provide us with funding options, whether it's going to be through town funding and the federal and state grant programs. So knowing what their report says at the end will be able to give us a better direction for FY26.
Do we envision that the infrastructure piece of that would be something that would come through the DPW at the appropriate time then?
So we're having those conversations at the same time. Kathleen Laurent is on these calls because we are looking at the solar canopies at Mashpee Middle High School. So as that process is going along, which is stalled right now due to Eversource, but once that goes along, we're making sure that if we're going to do electric buses, that we put in the proper charging stations at that time, so we're not doing it twice.
Okay, so maybe FY26 we'll see something on that. The HVAC program.
We have an update on that later, so. Did you?
Right, but
Yeah, I'm just saying, we do have an update on that later too.
I guess I just want to know if that will have, potentially has any consideration as far as FY25.
There was funding that was secured at town meeting last May that should be able to get us into FY25. Right now, we're working on the Coombs project, and this, in the next month or so, we're gonna be going out for an OPM for the other two projects. So we should be able to know how much that's going to be for the project cost. However, there is money in the bond that we requested at town meeting, and we have also some CIP money that we haven't touched yet for the high school and Quashnet projects.
I'm just leery, given the recent track record of requests for money, particularly by the town, where they've had to come back and ask for additional funding in order to cover shortfalls because, obviously with inflation, the price of everything has gone through the roof. And so what was estimated at one point, by the time they get around to actually trying to go out to bid on that stuff, it's dramatically increased, and we've got, unfortunately, a limited amount of funds that were approved at town meeting. There's no flexibility in regard to changing that without going back. I think that's the only questions that I had at this point. Actually, I misspoke. So I had asked the superintendent to provide some data regarding classroom sizes for the various schools, and I see we have that as a handout. It kind of partially addresses some of my questions. At a previous curriculum subcommittee meeting, the superintendent had stated that ideally roughly 16 students per classroom would be ideal, and I'm wondering, based on the information that's provided here, we're showing, for example, social studies, that the average potential average is 16.23 based upon the number of available teaching blocks and the number of students at middle high school. What that doesn't really answer, in my opinion, is really how many students is that in the class? So, for example, and I'll just pick one here, obviously the highest number. So we have a Spanish class that has 90 students. I don't know how many blocks that is.
So every teacher has 5 blocks.
Every teacher has 5 blocks. So let me try to do the math here. 90 divided by 5, I think that's more than 16, right? That would
Isn't
be
it?
80. So, right? That's by, 80. So that one's higher, and obviously there are some classes such as French, which would be less than that. So how are we trying to ensure that every class, or students in every class, and in this particular case, I want to contrast French versus Spanish, have the same equitable allocation as far as teacher?
So what I would prefer you not to focus on is world language, because that's an outlier for sure, in terms
That's
of.
an easy one to pick.
And not, so when you look at the 4 main areas, which is math, social studies, science, and English,
Yeah.
you see there, so let's just look at social studies. Of the teachers, every one of those departments has 8 teachers. Everyone has a department head. The department head teaches 1 less section, or if they evaluate, they teach 2 less sections. So anyway, that's where you get the number of sections. Every student has to take one of those classes. So you take 633 kids divided by 39 sections of class in social studies, and it comes out to 16.23. Now, that's not how it actually shakes out, but what we have decided moving into the next school year, the FY25 budget, is we want middle school, 7th and 8th grade, to be at 16. And we want our CP level classes to be at 16. Sometimes that means some of the honors classes might be bigger, but that's fine. We want to be able to give better attention and sort of that focused instruction to the classes by keeping the class sizes smaller. So and then you also, part of this puzzle is our elementary, and you look at those class sizes. So if you take any particular teacher who has their kids for 5 subjects during the day, they're up to 100 basically as a caseload. It may be the same 20 kids, but they teach them 5 different times during the day. So looking at our total resources that we have this year, moving forward into next year, we are going to reallocate individuals. We're looking at licensures. We're going to look at middle high school who have the licensure for 5th and 6th, shifting down because we have the ability to make our class sizes 16 at the high school where we want and others being larger. Because don't forget, we also have CTE. We have other things for those kids to be choosing and our music and all of that. So I think we're in a great position to sort of meet the expectation we've set for ourselves, which is that small class sizes for our middle schoolers. Every elementary classroom, in my opinion, should be 16. And then the CP classes, as you age in 9 through 12, to keep those class sizes small as well. We did ask the students about, because in my mind, I'm like, well, could we just merge CP into honors? They talked about the pacing, that the difference between the two is mainly the speed with which the instruction and teaching takes place. And they prefer, even the group of kids that we meet with, sometimes they choose to take a CP class even though they're in AP and honors and others, and they have their reasons, and so we want that opportunity available to them as well. But we're doing a lot of work with the middle high school. Principal McSweeney's right on top of it in terms of scheduling early and knowing that sort of this is the structure we're building in, then we create a schedule that has more sections of CP, so there's only 16 in the class. More sections, more teachers at the 7th and 8th grade level, so those class sizes are small.
So you said the desire, even at the elementary, was to keep them at 16, and I know we've got waves of various student populations coming through. But if I look, for example, at the 4th grade, which assuming that those all move up to 5th grade next year, even right now, none of those teachers are handling less than 21 kids.
Right, so as those 4th graders move to 5th, one of the 6th grade classes will be dropping down because we do not need 6 next year, although we do want to keep those sizes down as well. We want to make sure, as part of sort of that, when you have that lens and the social emotional needs of students, listening to what our teachers are saying, what is traditionally been an okay class size in the past is not working as well right now. And so we really want to listen to what they're saying and understand that the challenges are sometimes bigger than they used to be, and a smaller class size will allow us to address individual student needs better.
I guess I struggle with seeing how you're going to get there.
We're going to shift some teachers.
What's that?
We're going to shift some teachers from other locations.
Well, without shifting them out of...
Mashpee Middle High School has some wiggle room.
Okay, so Mashpee Middle High School, you'll shift down because I see Quashnet, you've got issues potentially.
There's not a lot of shifting we can do at the elementary without bringing new bodies in.
Well, and that's what I wanted to make sure that...
We're bringing new bodies in from within our...
It's reallocating resources.
It's reallocating
That's
the
it.
resources in order to do that. Okay.
That is right.
And then we're doing that without sacrificing currently any programs, is that correct?
That's correct, although they are looking at a lot of the singleton electives that the high school has to really sort of hone in on the ones that should be offered, because that's what sometimes creates other classes that are too big. So we have to look at, they're looking at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chair.
Yes.
Do we have a date yet for the March meeting?
We do not.
This is being
For the
presented-
FinCom?
FinCom, yeah. Once we have that date, if we could share that date, because I
Absolutely.
think it's important also for the public to understand that while we're doing this process, it does go through, the whole budget process through the town with the finance committee and, the town manager's recommendations, and they do have public comment as well. I think that this is on the community and all of us to kind of help us not sell the budget, but more maybe the position, hearing some of the concerns and the pushback that we might be receiving from that. And I also feel like I don't really kind of want to be caught off guard like we were previously with the town manager. I think that we've had, some positive discussions and collaborations between the chair and the superintendent, meeting with him and others to discuss some of these concerns. So that's just something that I would like for us to keep in mind as well. And at the end of the day, it still, goes down to the voters and to the citizens because this does get passed at town meeting. Obviously, we can make our recommendations. They can come back and say they don't accept the recommendations, but I think it's important for us to, make sure that we're letting everyone know about kind of the process and walking them through this so they don't think that this is the only time that we have, the public hearing and input into this.
And that also brings up a valid point too, is that, we make our recommendation, the town manager makes his recommendation, and as Vice Chair Whedon here just said, it goes to town meeting, and at town meeting, if the citizens want to accept our recommendation over the town manager's recommendation, that is something they can bring to the floor at town meeting. So that is something to keep in mind too. So I just like to remind people of that. Matt, did you have any?
All good.
Okay. All right. If no one else has anything to discuss about this, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion.
I can second.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Dan?
I vote yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
I also am a yes. Thank you very much. All right. So. It is again you.
Obviously, we're back at school, and we are grateful to have had the time off. All of 3 schools did a interesting Spirit Week, or a portion of a week prior to the break, and I think it's always reinvigoration of starting, I think, in January, back fresh. Listening to Andrew, though, so it sounds like he's fully engaged with a lot of tasks. The principal search for MMHS, we received 7 applicants through the online platform, and then 2 additional applicants through Indeed or other ways of communicating with us. We have selected 6 for interviews, so on the 10th and 11th, there are 3 interviews each evening from 3:30 to 7-ish. We have 9 members on the interview committee. We have 1 teacher and 1 paraprofessional. Principal McSweeney's on it as well. I'm on it. Roxanne Mills Brown from the tribe is on it. Our community member at large is Ruth Provost, the executive director of Boys and Girls Club. And then we have a student representative, I think it's Dalia, actually. We only had very few students actually indicated interest, and some of it's the commitment as well. So we're looking forward. We have some very good candidates, so we're hopeful. You have the enrollment page. I don't know if you have any questions on that. 1,455 students. Each of the grade levels is there. The school choice students enrolled at each grade level is shown as well. Cape Tech enrolled students, Sturgis students, and then school choice currently is at 119. It might have gone up to yesterday, I think. But anyway, so if you have any questions on that sheet. Then you have the personnel update. So Jordan Resendes was hired as a paraprofessional at the Mashpee Middle High School. Amy Turcott is the new executive administrative assistant to the principal. She had been the administrative assistant to the assistant principal, and she's new to Mashpee. She only came on board in the summer. Doreen Tripp is a new administrative assistant in the main office at MMHS. She was previously a Quashnet administrative assistant, and she also only came on board this school year? Yeah, start of this school year. Delaney Barger is a long-term substitute teacher at Quashnet. She's related to a shifting because of a teacher who resigned. And then Tracy Fisher took Doreen Tripp's position as administrative assistant. She had been a recess monitor. We still have a paraprofessional opening at the high school and the administrative assistant to the AP. I believe the interviews were today or tomorrow. The AP assistant interviews. Thursday and Friday. And then Patrice Huft, who was the executive administrative assistant to the principal at MMHS, she resigned. And then Suzanne Polakronis was a classroom teacher at Quashnet, and she resigned. So would any principals like, Principal O'Brien, would you like to share a little bit? Sure. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Just to bring you up to date a little bit on the work we have done at the Coombs School in response to Victoria's question. I think it's important to know that last year, all of the teachers participated on every half day in a training with Dr. Warnham. And so they have gone through all of that training and are applying that knowledge within their classroom and interactions with students this year, and really marking that moment. I think that's an important piece that we do acknowledge when things are not right, and we help teach the children how their words can be impactful on others in a negative way or a positive way. So it is really important that we do that, and I wish I was a part of that training. I missed it because now it's at Quashnet. But Mr. Prena, our assistant principal at Coombs, participated in that as well, all of our counselors and all of our staff. So we're really lucky to have had that training and that professional development that was throughout the year. Another piece that the superintendent spoke about was the No Place for Hate initiative in all 3 of our schools. And the way we have taken that initiative at the Coombs School, and it's approved through No Place for Hate, is our resurgence of our PBIS system, which is the Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. And we've worked very closely with the May Institute, and thank you, Dr. Curley, because a lot of that funding came from our special ed department. And so we we had a team of about 12 to 15 staff members this summer that met on several occasions and really worked to redevelop and reinvigorate our PBIS program. And part of that is to create a common language for our students and common expectations. So we've created a matrix in what it looks like to be a Falcon 5 leader within our school. And really it's about, and I truly believe this, is what we pay attention to does grow. So we use Falcon Eggs to mark the positive moments. And it's a tangible, it's an opportunity to teach. So it's not like a token reward that, oh, this is great. It's to say, you were so caring. Thank you so much for stopping and helping another student pick up their lunch they just spilled. Not that that happens a lot, but whatever it might be, whether it is, that was so kind of you to hold that door open for someone else. Thank you for doing that. Or it's respectful, responsible. So we really build off that Falcon 5. And that really is a program, the PBIS is a program that is supported by No Place for Hate. And I really am so impressed with how the staff has embraced this initiative as well. We have also pushed that onto the buses through bus training. You'll see our voice checks on the buses in every classroom in the halls. So we're respectful and we're listening to each other and trying to keep voices down. Part of that initiative is also a data collection system. So we started this, rolled it out. Actually, it was early in the fall, but went full steam ahead in December, where staff are entering data on different instances or incidences that occur within the school. And it's labeled either as minor or major type incident. And what's really helpful for that is our PBIS team, as well as our Pulse team and our SBLT, which is our school-based leadership team. We can look at that data and really determine, are we having more instances of physical aggression? Is it running in the hall? Is it bathroom? Is it buses? What is it? Is it pushing? So we can then put the training in place and teach specifically those skills we want to see in students. So I think it's been really a nice incentive this year for our students, because they see our falcon nest being filled with those eggs. Every week they're being filled, and there's a school-wide celebration for that. So it is really tangible for the young kids, but they see the images, they hear it from the teachers, and it is really, really important, I think, mostly is to really mark that moment, whether it's a positive or if someone has made a misstep, that we do acknowledge and teach in the moment. That's why I think being embedded in the classroom and with the teachers is so critical, because for someone to come in a day or even an hour or two after that incident, sometimes our 4-year-olds don't remember and they're already on to something else. So it is really important for those teachers to be empowered, our paraprofessionals empowered. So I do think there's been a lot of work in this area. Are we done? No way. We have a lot of work to still do and to push forward with. The nice thing about our K-2, pre-K to 2, they say what's on their mind. We are so fortunate to have Darius come with his lunch bunch crew, and the kids are so excited. And I had one of the other little girls, well, why can't we have a Jamaican lunch bunch? You know, it's like she wanted that piece too. And it's like, we're going to see what we can do to create more opportunities for kids. And she really felt very passionate about that. And we have to listen to those voices, hear them, and then respond to them. So that is something I think is really important, especially with our young kids, because I agree, I think that's something that Dr. Warnham had shared, that this is like ingrained at 8, 9 years old, not at 15. It's at Coombs, it's at 3rd grade, it's those ages where we really need to intervene, and seriously and quickly. So it is wonderful. We do have an after-school club. That's a kindness club, and the kids work to do a lot of different things within the school. I can also recognize Rebecca Davis, one of our paraprofessionals, who's worked to bring in our High Five Fridays. So we've had first responders come to greet kids and recognize them and encourage them. We've had the Air National Guard, thank you, Matt, for coming with a whole crew. It was fabulous. And the Friday before break, we had Wampanoag elders come, and then a couple friends come as well, to really celebrate a wide variety of our students. And it was just wonderful to see kids get off the bus and there's my aunt, and run and jump and hug, and like, it's just such a positive piece that I think we need to model that support for our kids in every area, every day. And I can say I think the work has been really powerful. And like I said, it's constantly ongoing. In terms of Calmer Choice, we don't necessarily follow that curriculum, but we do use Calm Classroom every morning with announcements. That's a piece of Mr. Prena's announcements with students, where they do a Calm Classroom exercise, and they are responding. Pre-K, not initially. They're beginning to do that more. But our 1st and 2nd graders are pros at it. Kindergarten they're pros. During lunch, that's a big part of what I like to do with our first and second graders, is to just calm our bodies and calm our brains before we go into our classrooms and our teachers bring us through the halls. Just to be a little bit centered, to be calmer, and to be aware of their space and how they're interacting with one another. So, yeah, I think we're doing a lot. Can we do more? We're always going to look to improve what we do. But I really appreciate that PBIS initiative, and Beth Siegel has really been instrumental in leading that group and that team of teachers continually since the summer. Any questions?
Madam Chair, is it okay if I provide a comment, maybe more of a question? So I guess I just want to say truly how impressed I have been as a consumer of having two children in obviously Casey Coombs and seeing the PBIS process in action. You know, we talked a little bit, or Superintendent DeBoer, you talked a little bit about how investing into frontline around the DEIB piece of things is so important. One example that I overheard from my daughter was that she's felt a little unheard or unseen when she's at lunch around her peers, around some of the food choices she brings in. Other kids don't understand it, or it may not be a part of their cultural norm. And she found a buddy who has a similar background, and when she talked about what she was eating for lunch, that person knew what she was eating and was able to share in that moment. And one of the teachers recognized this moment and provided a Falcon coin to that student who kind of paired with her. And it was a really beautiful moment for my daughter and for that other student to feel that. So I think that speaks to the knowledge and the education and the skill set that our frontline team members are receiving, to be able to not just see, you said hi to someone or picked up that, snack that fell on the floor, but that level of importance of having those shared moments. So just throwing that out. And then very briefly, funny story. It just happened that the Santa that was at the Commons had coins for folks that were on the nice list that were similar, if not identical, to Falcon coins. So it was a lovely moment when everyone that was walking out that clearly was a Mashpee school Casey Coombs student was like, I got a Falcon coin for seeing Santa. So it's sticking. That's what I'm trying to say here, is that it's clearly sticking because it is something that is so important and embedded into the fabric of what you guys are doing. So thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for sharing that. We have had emails and conversations with families that want to really reinforce the Falcon 5 and those expectations at home, and have asked about Falcon eggs as well. So I do think it's getting very embedded in our school culture and community. So thank you for sharing.
Anyone else? Thank you for shining the light on the positive. Like you said, I think what we focus on is what grows. So thank you for continuing to focus on the good to make that grow.
Absolutely, we'll keep on doing that.
So Principal McSweeney, would you like to share a little bit?
Good evening and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Mid-December, the Falcon Theater performed the play The Bookstore. It was fabulous. For those of you who had the opportunity to see it, it's always so wonderful to see our students out of the classroom, but using some of the skills they learn in the classroom in a co-curricular event. So that was really terrific. Winter athletics is in full swing. I don't think there's a night that you can go by Mashpee Middle High School and the gymnasium lights aren't on, and some of our student athletes are in there doing something. Esme Mildy and Alexa Wilma were accepted into Southeast Junior Music Festival to be held in March, so congratulations to them. Mashpee Middle High School was recognized as an AP 2023 Bronze Honor Roll recipient. Very proud of that. There have been 23 students of the class of 2024 that are John and Abigail Adams Scholarship recipients. We're going to save disclosing their names until scholarship night, but wanted to make you aware of that. Daily communications, we always look to improve the communications, not only that we have with our students, but with our families. Daily communications are being done through our Builders Club, and they are being run during our homeroom period. In addition, on Fridays, the Mashpee Minute, which is student produced, is being run on Fridays, and just a way to communicate to our students all the different activities that are going on within our school community and our extended school community. We take great pride in all of our students leaving with a plan from Mashpee Middle High School, regardless of what that plan may be, but leave with a plan, what's your next step. And we're thrilled to share with you that Alina Doolin, a grade 12 student, is a recipient of a Questbridge National Scholarship. Out of 20,800 students nationwide, 6,603 become finalists. And of those 6,603 finalists, 2,200 were matched with the school. What that meant for Alina was matched with Holy Cross, and as a result, she will be attending Holy Cross, was accepted, but she gets a full ride. And sometimes full rides, people think of full rides and think just tuition. She will receive a full ride, which includes tuition, books, housing, expenses, et cetera, well over $300,000. So certainly a great distinction for she and her family, but also a nice credit to what we do within the Mashpee Public School System to have a student rising to that caliber of recognition. So congratulations to her. Let's see. Tomorrow morning, I can't believe we need more Kleenex, quite frankly, because we just ordered some right before vacation with two boxes delivered to each classroom, but clearly the sniffles are around, and we will be ordering some more. And I will ask Ms. Lopes to expedite that purchase order so we can get some more Kleenex in, and she's already contacted Catherine to make sure we get some more hand sanitizer in, so we'll take care of that one right away. January 30th, we will be having a program of studies open house format, both day and evening. So during the day for our students, we're going to have I'm going to call it a rotational or a circular type of day. One of the rotations will be, we will have all of our departments set up within the gymnasium. So students will have that experience to actually talk to teachers within each of the departments within our school as they start to think about their schedule for the upcoming school year. So that will be one rotation, and we will do that for all grades, obviously, except the seniors, who don't have to make that decision at our building level anymore. One of the rotations will also be a session with Talia Landry, which unfortunately Talia was unable to do earlier this year due to illness, but she's going to be able to do that presentation for our students. Another rotation will be with Jason Cross, who is a motivational speaker who I believe was mentioned here earlier. And then the last rotation will be our students will sit down with their guidance counselors to review their MyCap program, to make sure that our students 7 through 11 are on board with that and capturing through their MyCap program some of the great work that they've done within that building, which helps create their portfolio as they prepare to exit. So that will be our morning session with that, and the hope is students will go home with a copy. We're going to give them a little program of study passport, if you will, that would be signed by their teachers. We're going to make a copy of that because sometimes things get lost. We're going to keep a copy of that with their guidance, but we're also going to send them home with a copy because that evening is our open house and program of studies nights for parents. So again, looking at that communication piece, parents will now have something that shows what teachers recommended, what the student may be interested in, and hopefully, a conversation perhaps around the dinner table or somewhere along the lines as to their educational journey. And the last two things I would have to report on is that through conversations amongst the staff and working with our colleagues within the tribe, the Indian Education Room we're proud to share is now going to be known as the Wampanoag Education Room, and we'll be placing a nice sign that's been made by our students very soon over that room, and that's been well received with our colleagues and friends. We remind folks that, believe it or not, the end of the first semester is in about 2 weeks, so half of our school year is over. We will be reminding students this week. We remind families at home, this may be a good time to take a look at what your child's second semester schedule looks like. Does it look as it should? And if not, you may want to touch base with your guidance counselor to make sure on day one of second semester that we start smoothly and we're ready to finish out the school year with what's been scheduled for the second semester. All remains well at Mashpee Middle High School, and I appreciate the opportunity to share with you some of the happenings going on within our building.
Thank you, and thank you again for all you're doing to kind of help steer things in a new direction that seems very positive. So
It's a good
thank
place. It really is a good place.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Principal Switzer.
All right. So DEI seems to be the topic for now, so I'll kind of scrap what I was going to say. I'm going to talk about DEI a little bit too and quashing it. Because I agree with Mrs. DeBoer that it's hard to see DEI in a budget. So I'm just going to give you, I jotted down 4 examples of staff doing positive things that involves DEI since we've been back from break, so 2 days. No, and one that I really want to highlight from December. So I started a school council. We have parent representative, teacher representatives, and a representative from the Wampanoag tribe. As we get into discussions to hear from all the different stakeholders, and especially that parent perspective, we've decided to focus on 2 things: attendance and behavior responses to students, both positive behavior and negative behavior. It's impossible to talk about those things without DEI being involved. So when we get into that, how does that look? Well, we have a pulse meeting every Tuesday, which is all the counselors, myself, the assistant principal, Dr. Curley comes, our BCBA, our behavior person. We put in place this year a way that teachers can report students that they're concerned about, and they can be concerned about them for any reason, socially, emotionally, academically. Maybe they're concerned about something they came in and said about from home. And we discuss every single kid and every single grade level that a teacher is concerned about. Without even asking, our assistant principal here added 2 columns, male, female, and a person of color, because we want to make sure we're looking at that data. So every single Tuesday when we meet, we are looking to make sure that discipline rates, attendance rates, everything is being represented in DEI, both when it comes to race and gender. So I want to highlight that. Also, as a lot of you know, because I've been publicizing it, No Place for Hate, our big kickoff is on Monday. There are really 3 components to it that I want to share. The first is an assembly that I'm going to do, and I'll share the video with everyone. We did it. A video group, excuse me, from the high school came down. They made a nice video of staff members answering questions about why they want Quashnet to be a No Place for Hate school. And so I'm going to show that to all the kids. And the idea is that we start in that component. We do 3 different activities throughout the year. And at the end, we're going to do a student video with why they want Quashnet to be a No Place for Hate school. So on Monday, we'll be doing an assembly. We are doing an activity. All the teachers are leading activities in the room this week. And there was a week in December where we met with all the classroom teachers and we did common planning around these activities. We're calling it the Tree of Respect. Essentially, they are discussing the difference, because at our level, No Place for Hate will look a little different than high school. They're looking at the difference between respect and kindness. If you want to have a great conversation, because I did it with all the groups and I did it all the teams of teachers, talk about with somebody you know, what's the difference between respect and kindness? Are they the same thing? Because we had just some fantastic conversations. They're going to do activities with the kids, and all the kids are going to, in every classroom, we're going to have tree trunks. The kids are going to trace their hands, do what they believe respect and kindness is, and it's going to go up on the wall. It's going to be in every classroom. On top of that, we're making, I give Lauren Richards, our art teacher, a ton of credit. We're doing a big falcon where every kid's going to do a feather. It's like an all about them feather, and we're putting it in the front of the school. she says, and I totally believe her because she's a fantastic teacher, the kids are gonna be able to stand in it with the wings, take a picture. It's gonna have the No Place for Hate pledge on it, the elementary version. And the last thing I want to share is a quick story about Dr. Wernham. I fortunately was able to experience Dr. Wernham the last 2 years when I was in DY, and she's back again. She is phenomenal in the way she trains staff. She's also a resource for us. So here's a quick story that I think kind of totally embodies the work we do every day and the fact that you can't see DEI in a budget, but it happens every day. I had a parent reach out to me about a racial concern. Her son is black, and she believed that something happened in the building. And she wrote me a long email, as I totally understand I would be upset too. My response to her was pretty simple in the fact that I was gonna listen to her son, I was gonna reach out to Dr. Wernham for support and advice. And the response you get back when you listen is pretty incredible, because she wrote me back and said, "Thank you for taking this so seriously." And I said, any time we hear something racial, we take it seriously. And I think she was so shocked that I was willing to talk about it, but not just that, the teacher was willing to talk about it. And the teacher had made a mistake and was willing to have that discussion. And when I talked to Dr. Wernham, one of the things that she reminded me, every time I talked to her, I learned something new. She reminded me that DEI is also building students' identities. So when we do things like our robust, like the theater we saw today, right? Our theater, our clubs, those are helping students build identities and feel connected to school. And so you can't always see that. Is it directly saying, you know, black, white, Wampanoag? No, but our kids are building their identities and feeling like they're a part of a community. And so tonight, coincidentally, I know some people already looked at me because their phones started going off at 7 o'clock. Because they all called, just went out to sign up for our second session of clubs. We have all kinds of clubs. I can't tell you what the spring theater performance is, because Miss Nessie told me today, but the kids don't know yet what show we're doing. But you'd be amazed at some of the things, and I believe that was highlighted tonight. And not just that, but that was a totally organic thing. The canvas behind you, Miss Nessie and Miss Matthews happened to have joining classrooms. And so Miss Nessie walked in, she has a painting club, and she's like, "Hey, will you paint the backdrops?" That's forever ingrained, right? Now we're going to do that every time. So I just wanted to share those few things that are really coming up. Also, just a couple other things. We have winter concerts coming up in the week of January 23rd to the 25th. February 5th, we have our big robotics competition here. Our robotics team, I haven't been, but I'm really excited. I know schools come from hours away to compete. Our gym transforms into this giant, I don't even know what you call it, arena. Right, so that's going to be that's a really exciting thing, and I think that's what I got. We got a lot of good stuff coming up, and I really cherish this time between December break and February break. We don't have a lot of disruptions, and we get a lot of good learning in the next 7-8 weeks. It's a nice time of year to be in a school.
Anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
Enjoy your first robotics competition, because let me tell you, you might not know what you're cheering for or on the edge of your seat for, but
It's cool.
it's very cool. You do have to watch it a while to pick it up. All right, excellent.
Just to continue quickly, we have the athletic director's report. I just want to highlight the co-op teams that we have, which is gymnastics, which is Barnstable and Falmouth and Mashpee. Ice hockey is with Sandwich, girls ice hockey is with Sandwich, Bourne, and Carver and Mashpee. Boys hockey is our team with Monomoy, our students. And I think that's it for co-op teams. But you can see the enrollment on each team. We did have a change in the middle school basketball coach. Andy Mather had to resign. And we have 2 people in position. We have an assistant coach for middle school, girls and boys, because of the numbers. So that's that. We have Consuelo Carroll's report.
Quick question, is the We Are Mashpee store, I know they were a pop-up for the holidays, or is there any word on?
Well, I believe she's moving back to her other pop-up in Mashpee Middle High School, because I saw her today. I think that arrangement has ended. So yeah, that's where we're at for now.
Okay.
We are making progress on our mobile version of the store.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so recognitions and acknowledgements. I'm not going to be able to hit everybody, but I just wanted to say the phenomenal support that the schools receive for our families in need at the holiday time. Just to name a few, we had Dino's, our Southport community, the Kiwanis Club of Mashpee, various other businesses in Mashpee, the Mashpee Police Department, the DPW Sunshine Fund, many of our teacher retirees, the Giving Tree event at Coombs Senior Center. They are just phenomenal with what they come through, and we have a very organized system with our guidance counselors at all 3 schools, sort of a shared spreadsheet, so we try to make sure every child, every family has their needs met. So I just want to say how grateful we are to be in Mashpee. 2 things, we have a $10,000 grant that we received from DESE. Has to do with chronic absenteeism, so we participated. There were 3 options with DESE. I think there's 170 schools that are doing this. I think that's wherever that paper was. Yes, 170 districts, I should say. We participated, Dr. Hanscom and I did a webinar on family engagement to improve student absenteeism, chronic absenteeism. Dr. Curley and Principal O'Brien, they did one on records management tools to keep track of and analyze attendance. The third option that DESE offered was a commitment to do sort of like a Saturday school or vacation school for students who are chronically absent. We did not opt as that choice because staffing wise, and I don't think too many students will be happy about that. Anyway, so because we participated and filled out the survey, we got the $10,000. Now we will be determining how we want to spend it in one of those 2 areas with family engagement and monitoring or better monitoring system.
So no breakfast club for Mashpee.
No breakfast club for Mashpee. And then just the small part of the class action suit against Jewel. Mashpee's share is $2,858.47. That represents about half of our, 54% of our total allocation. We'll be getting another one in December of 24, 25, and 26. This was a huge nationwide class action lawsuit against Jewel. So we don't know yet what we'll use it on, but it will be something related to vaping. Yeah, education for students. And lastly, on the upcoming events, I do want to point out that on Friday night, halftime of the girls' varsity basketball game is the banner raising ceremony. We have 5 students who had reached that goal. Their names are out on the 151 sign and advertising the event. But it's a great event to come to, so we hope everyone is able to be there. And then you already know about the Quashnet Theater performances. I was going to highlight that. On the 16th, which is prior to your next meeting, there is the instrumental chorus, I don't know if it's instrumental chorus.
I know it's band.
Is it both? I think it's instrumental concert. Because, yes, it is just the instrumental concert, because I see the other one further down. Anyway, on the 16th, you might want to go to that, and then we'll be meeting again on the 17th, so I'll highlight the rest after. So.
Thank you, Superintendent DeBoer. Anyone have any questions for that very detailed and wonderful update? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Lopes.
In your packet are the FY24 budget updates. I don't have anything in particular to point out. We're on track in our spending for right now. I didn't receive any questions before the meeting, but are there any now? My second update is on the KCC ventilation. We are at the 90% mark for design and engineering. So our vendor right now is reaching out to National Grid, Mass Save to get all of the logistics with credits and rebates and things of that nature that they can put into the bid document, which will be going out the end of January, beginning of February. Once that bid document goes out, we'll get the information about vendors, then we'll have a better timeline of when the project will start and the duration of it. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
All right, next we have a couple, it looks like just one working group update. Vice Chair Whedon and Secretary Davis, would you like to take the floor?
I can as well if you
And
don't.
Superintendent DeBoer, either one, any one of you?
It feels feels like that was a long time ago that we met.
I know it does feel like a long time ago. I know that we were taking consideration like some of like the language that was like with clubs or with different things that are happening. Like, does a child not just feel that they're like they're able to attend, but they would be welcome? Because like sometimes different clubs or sports or things like that could seem like they're specific to only certain groups of people, just inherent in like the stereotypical way of like nature of a certain club or like a game or something like that.
And so that's survey.
Yeah, and we were trying to get like that data from like students, like do they actually feel welcome, and is that like being captured in this type of a survey? Yeah.
We also looked at some of the questions that we had and some of the new questions and seen how those kind of matched up with our plan for success and as well as the goals that we have. And then we kind of edited some of the questions to kind of say, well, this kind of seems like it's redundant or it's being asked in another way. So what other questions could we put forward? And I think we had come up with almost like 4 or 5 new questions or something that we had incorporated also into this.
So on page 39 of the packet is sort of a double-sided summary of everything. One of the things is we do want to eliminate the neutral option in the questions because it just doesn't really give us the information, like pick one or the other and decide. We also, though, the district-based leadership team has met since the working group met as well, and we're kind of leaning on a little shift in when it's administered. So normally we've always done it the Monday after February break. So trying to capture some of the events that are happening and opportunities to encourage participation. We think we're going to run it from Wednesday the 28th, which is not that far after vacation, through Saturday the 16th of March, and that's because that's the second day of the play. So we want to, and we don't have school on the 15th, and there are events. So STEAM night at Quashnet is the 29th of February. So that's a night that Principal Switzer actually was going to man a table and really encourage people to fill out the survey. And we'll have Chromebooks there. KCC has a game night on the 14th and then the spring production. So that hits all 3 schools. We will communicate it. We're going to try to do the QR code as a link to the survey. So I've always clung to that same 2 weeks as sort of a stable factor when we compare data, but if we really want to increase, I think looking at it a little bit differently as a window. Obviously, some people tend to do it that first week anyway. We do want to also incentivize for parents, so we will have a drawing for an Amazon gift card for everyone who's completed it by a certain date, and we'll continue to sort of advertise that piece. So just a quick scan down. We're proposing what's labeled as question 8 to be removed because question 13 is very similar. We're proposing adding that my child enjoys eating school-provided lunch, and students will have a version. Question 11, we're removing. We did use that information, and that was actually changes that resulted in a collective bargaining change, which is good, so we don't need that anymore. Question 20, we're proposing a change to my child is involved in a school-related activity outside of the classroom. Question 24, we're kind of just relocating it to after 17. It seems to fit where you're talking about staff. On the back, question 26, for 2024, we want to add a drop down for 2 categories of safety, emotional and physical. Proposing removing number 27. And then 37, we want to also move that closer to or after question 17, because again, it's a staff question. The total questions is not really changing for parents, and it's actually going down too for students. We do want to space out when the students do it, so that has yet to be worked out. Last year we tried to have like everybody do it. It was somewhat of a crash and burn at the high school, so we're not going to do that again this year. And what else was I going to say with that? I don't know. But we will be having meetings. There's a timeline after on the next page, 41. It might be a little bit off, since we've done a little bit more meeting, but there will be a focus group. Depending on if we're going to administer it a little bit later, I have a little wiggle room with that focus group. And then the student Advisory Council will be looking at the questions when we meet with them on the 19th. So we have an opportunity to get some parent input and some student input. And we could probably figure out a way to get some staff input too. But it's kind of feeling, between the timing of this, which granted we don't send it out until after February vacation, which sounds like, oh, that's so far off, but it's really not, because there's a lot of pieces that go into it ahead of time, making sure because every survey, while similar, is individualized for each school and for each set of students. And with the principal hiring process, it's kind of feels like a lot right now. So anyway, it'll get done, but any questions on any of the prompts or process? Maybe your thoughts on the administration window? Because it is kind of your survey.
Anyone? If not, I have one.
Go ahead.
You can go first. It's fine.
So, the school committee might want to consider some sort of incentive for each of the 3 schools. So, for example, like highest percentage completion of the survey within a grade. Maybe we utilize some of our funds to do a pizza party or something similar. Just a thought.
I know we did talk about trying to incorporate Andrew in that group as well, to get the students' input as well, to see what kind of things like that, that we could do to get their, to see what their peers are saying, what they think. So something that did come up.
And hopefully that group of the Student Advisory Committee will be able to communicate the importance of this survey to us, because now they're even more involved in the results of that,
Yeah.
because they're seeing what we do with this information. But I think maybe, to Don's point and to your point, if you spoke about it, I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think, maybe a little healthy competition gets more answers.
Well, it definitely does. We can talk to the middle high school kids, because that's the group that I most want to get. Here, you can easily tell, and you're like, well, how come that classroom didn't do it yet? Like, it's easy to see who hasn't, and they're pretty competitive but they'll all, what you'd end up with at this level is every classroom would get a pizza party, because they would all have 100% participation, which is not a bad thing, but could be a little expensive.
Yeah.
But pizzas have gone up. But I think definitely we can figure out what would work for 5th and 6th, and then what will work for the 7th through 12th.
Sure.
And we'll get it from the
It
students.
might be a different motivational item, depending on the school.
And 7th through 12 might like an extra recess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Me.
Different incentive forms.
This is something we talked about too, to do in one of those meetings that we have with the school committee, is kind of talking about obviously the survey in one of those Zoom meetings that we have, but also incorporating the student advisory committee to see kind of what are the reasons why we're not getting responses from some of their peers, because it might be obviously extracurricular stuff, they don't get the time, even though we do give them the time to kind of do it in their classrooms and stuff, but we'd really like to
I heard
find more
similar
information
comments
as well.
from Don last year, though,
Yeah.
about, some classes gave them like 20 minutes, like they got their whole, like a section of it. In other classes, it was, don't forget to do that. And that was that. So I appreciate, class time, learning time. I understand that, but.
I think the messaging of the team of teachers has to be on board with this process. And that's messaging that comes through the principals, so, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. I just had one question about, I guess comment or maybe question on question 20.
Yes.
And the proposed change. Will you be including the parenthetical after-school clubs, or are you just going to change it to as presented? Because I guess I just wonder if school-related, are you looking to capture things that are related? I guess, are we looking to see, are they doing any extracurricular activities, period? Or are they doing ones that are run and facilitated by the school?
Yeah, it's the run and facilitated by the school.
So should it be school-sponsored, perhaps, or is school-related? I guess it was just the word related kind of made it a
School
little
sponsored sounds good.
unclear as to who's running it. You know what I mean? Because we have for Quashnet, for example, we have Miss Hannah's program run through the rec department, but we have the after school clubs which are sponsored by the school. So it's I guess that's my only question on that.
We'll give examples too, so that
Okay.
for clarity, but yeah, I like that better.
Thank you, Outreach Working Group. Specifically unfinished old business, school choice program. We had talked about.
That's kind of this handout. That It
was-
has all the school choice. John kind of.
Dawn used it for
jumps
something
into it.
else, but that we
It's
can.
multi-purpose.
It is multi-purpose. We like that.
Yeah.
We're resourceful, right? Isn't her? So last year, as you may or may not recall, we opted not to vote any school choice seats. I know I personally had questions about that choice. I've ultimately voted in favor, and I believe Dawn had some questions on it too, but we did pass that we were not going to allow school choice from 9 through 12. I think we've had a lot of people requesting waivers or asking about the possibility. We've, kind of held fast to our decision. But I guess looking at it and looking at the numbers and looking at how things kind of shook out, I was wondering if the committee wanted to, and we kind of touched on revisiting that decision and whether or not we would like to consider school choice seats. And this was for not this year, but next year, correct? Or no, it was for this year, but we would reach out to the families that we would reach out to certain, to the ones that had applied, correct?
Yes, so the challenge comes with students that were already with us who don't live in Mashpee anymore. So in your mind, they were part of the budget we built because we had counted them. If you open though for them, you have to then go back to connect with any family that was turned down who may not have been previously associated with Mashpee. And no, although we don't have, sometimes they just had a phone call and they were told there was no seats. And Sherry estimated that was like 6 to 7. In terms of current high school, where 9 through 12, there's 2 students that would impact in grade 9, 2 students in grade 10, and 4 students in grade 11. And in those cases, those students have already, in some cases, made the shift to another district. So that would be a decision. I have a call tomorrow with Sarah, our attorney, just wondering if there is other districts where if you were already a Mashpee resident, and some of these kids have been with us for many years, and you leave, is there a way to just move them in, or then it becomes sort of not ethical and you have to reach back out to everybody that got turned down? But the difference between a brand new choice or someone that's been with Mashpee for X number of years.
And we answered there was a question when we first brought this up about the funding for school choice, correct? We would be able, there's no.
Well, you can look at the number. So when you look at, this was done as of 12/29. In some cases, at the middle high school, when you look at grades 9 through 12 and you see the enrollments, in some cases, those students have withdrawn. So like if you look at grade 11, it in theory was 119 at some point because those 4 kids left. And then those are school choices currently. Obviously, you continue to go through the grades.
Madam Chair, my recollection may be off, but was there also a question on whether or not we could revisit this at this point in the year that we were going to?
That's what I was
clarify?
referring to with it revolved around the financing
So
of school
specifically
choice.
the financing.
That's usually the biggest issue, right? Is there a deadline for that? It's really.
No, I mean, school choice is a rolling basis, so if we had the open seat and the student wanted to start now, it would be prorated for what they have, the days that they're here.
And that's something we as a committee decide, so.
Yep, makes sense. I just wanted to make sure that I remembered that correctly.
No, thank you.
But In my mind, the question though was not so much that, but the question of whether or not we could expand the program mid-year.
Yeah.
And that's, I thought, was a question that the school attorney needed to confirm that we could actually do that. Not so much that if we had, an open seat, someone could fill that, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is, as the superintendent alluded, that person's already incorporated into our budget. So when they leave and go to, say, Sandwich, right, what's going to happen is, if they come back, in theory, we would have to charge them tuition. But we historically have waived the fees. And we've had, in my experience, a handful of those over the course of years. Not all, not a huge
number, no.
Not a huge number, that would ever be disconcerting to me. Would it be nice to have extra seats available? Yeah, I mean, but those are, as I understood, those were decisions that we had to make at the very beginning of the year. And once we decided, that's what we were going to create, we were going to create a dozen seats in, say, grade 11, that's what we had. We didn't have the ability to go back and change, but I could be totally wrong.
We put your vote, I think you vote the number of seats at each grade level, and that goes to DESE. I don't know if you can do a mid-year shift, so I can ask
that to me
Sarah.
is the big question. The financial piece, from my perspective, is not disconcerting to me.
Okay.
Would it be great if it was school choice? Because that means we get to keep them, and the sending district pays for.
Well, and they get
part of their costs.
they get to stay where they want. I think is the bigger, or where they feel like they belong. I think is the bigger thing. So Sarah's usually quick on her turnaround.
I have a 9 o'clock with her tomorrow, so I'll just, we're Zooming, so I'll ask her.
All right.
Yeah, I know I would feel a little bit more comfortable hearing from Sarah, but maybe in the interest of this item, it'd be appropriate to maybe make a motion to table it, lay it on the table, so then that way it's on the next agenda, or the chairperson sets the agenda anyway, so if you want to put it on
Yeah, we
the
don't
next
want to
agenda.
table it. That's not the, we want to,
we want to
postpone it to the meeting of, because if you table it and we adjourn and we don't revisit it, it doesn't ever come back. That's how I understand tabling.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but that was how I learned it.
I'd be fine with you just putting it on the agenda for everyone.
All right,
I
if
mean,
that's the consent,
you do set the agenda, but
we can take no action on it and put it back on a future agenda too. That's the
Get
other.
more data,
We need it. We can't vote on something if we don't have the full understanding of the legality of it. So I am in agreement with Mr. Myers and Mr. Whedon, and if that is the consent of the committee, then
yes.
All right.
I think the other information that I would be looking for is, what were the numbers of students and families that were probably turned away. I understand like 6 to 7 people might have called Sherry, and we have in the past agreed to the waivers. I mean, I understand voting on the actual seats, but that kind of information I feel like is something not necessarily the student, but what are we talking about numbers wise?
And to clarify, the calls are the ones that didn't necessarily email their requests. We have additional email requests too, do we not?
We have communications from families that have been with Mashpee and moved.
Yes.
And then the way we advertise school choice on our website, we did not show grades 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's what prompts people to call and have the conversation. So there's no application for them to fill out because it's not listed on there as an option for them. So, we have a few emails from families.
Okay, then we'll see this item again.
We will.
Just to clarify though, if someone called and asked, they would be told that there's a possibility if they.
Now?
No.
After you
of a waiver if they were a former Mashpee student.
They were not.
So the waivers that I recall since I've been in this role tended to be in like the last quarter or last semester, quarter.
Yeah, the last quarter. Usually.
where families would shift and they don't want their child to move.
Right.
Earlier in the year, there was the potential of a parent coming. He did not end up coming, where we hadn't even started yet, and he wanted a waiver for the whole year because there was not choice in the 2 grades that he
And
needed.
it had some legal issues behind it as well, I think, that made him miss the deadline for school. It was a very complicated issue from my recollection, so.
So I feel like as a committee too, you can say, okay, you know, we don't have the word anymore, but we welcome, like you're able to request a tuition waiver if it's, you know, from February on or whatever you're comfortable with, you know, because you can do that too.
Once we determine if that is doable. All right, excellent. Next item, possible change to the student advisory committee meeting from the 24th to the 17th. Basically, we would eliminate the 24th meeting and make the 17th, right? That's what we said?
Yeah, that the students we were actually going to look at the following 3 meetings.
Yeah.
But the January 24th could be merged into the 17th, and because I think it's important where you're voting on the budget for the kids to be here. And instead of adding a meeting to your schedules because of the student advisory committee, we would just merge it. So the April 3rd one could be on March 20th, and then the May 29th, which is actually late for our seniors, would be on May 15th. So it's 3 less meetings for your group, and I think we can add agenda items that they want.
And technically, it didn't need to be a separate, like, additional meeting for us. They could have, you know, we could have set this up like this from the start, I found out. So that's the reason for the proposed change. It would really be eliminating, like Superintendent DeBoer said, just eliminating the April 3rd and the May 29th, well, the January 24th, April 3rd, and May 29th meetings, and then inviting them to the other meetings as mentioned. Have we floated this? We have not given this to them yet?
I don't think so.
I don't see anything competing for me. Yeah. But for them, yeah. The student advisory committee.
I can send it out to them tomorrow to see if any of them have a conflict. I mean,
My only concern, the only concern I have though is if we send it out and we're saying we would like them to come to the January 17th meeting. You know what I mean? Like,
Could we vote
Is
on
that-
contingent upon their response?
if you would like to make that motion, go right
But
ahead.
is that something that the rest of the committee would be interested in entertaining?
I'd be fine. Yes.
Don, thoughts?
I'm indifferent.
I guess my only other feedback would be, it sounds like, as you shared earlier, Madam Chair, that creating agenda items or being able to have agency in what they want to discuss has been a bit of a complexity. So I would just hope that if we were to combine, that we're giving preference to, the items that they are interested in covering.
we should put them first.
Well,
So they have another time there.
Won't the 17th meeting be the budget meeting?
Yes.
Well, you're voting on the budget
Well, right.
and discussing the budget.
Discussing
Yeah.
and voting on a budget,
Right.
correct?
Correct.
Just, okay.
Do you think that's too much for them to be involved with, or?
Well, it ultimately depends on when you place that on the agenda. I mean, if you want to keep them here till 7 o'clock or 7:30, to go through that, then
Do you prefer the separate meetings then? The separate joint meetings?
from my perspective, and the way I understood that process, was that we wanted them to really own those meetings, and it's very difficult if they're really a subset of our meeting.
fair enough.
So I expected that, you know, we would really be listening to items that they're concerned most about. You know, whether it's the food at the cafeteria or whatever. Those aren't things that we normally talk about. And I think stuff like that, that's, you know, hand sanitizer, that's important to them. We would never talk about that generally as an agenda item in our meeting.
Yeah.
And so, in my personal opinion, I think we're not giving them the best platform to express their issues and concerns. You know, we're incorporating them into our issues and concerns, which is valid, and we do have some. But I think they could do better if they had a separate meeting that focused on things that they were concerned about specifically versus you know, the stuff that we generally discuss. And not that I don't want to disinvite them, but that's just my thought.
Oh, valid points.
And I do think that it's a learning curve process to get this off the ground. So like the December 6th meeting, which they did not have agenda items. So we kept adding so that we would be productive in that meeting. So I wonder about, well, checking with them, but could we take 20 minutes of a meeting whenever it's one of their meetings at the first 20 minutes and they've developed that portion of the agenda? I don't know.
Or perhaps we incorporate the chair of the student advisory and maybe once a month, like our Zoom. Yeah, exactly. But maybe that's another opportunity to help develop that agenda and help guide and better inform. Again, we're all kind of in this learning process with this brand new facet, so there are going to be hiccups. So I appreciate everyone's patience as we work through that. I do still see a huge benefit to their voices being at the table, so I'm thankful that everyone is willing to discuss and share their thoughts on these meetings. So I appreciate your candor, Dawn. And, you know, those are very valid points. So do we take no action and leave it as is? Are you all okay with the extra meetings? It's a discussion, and we can take no action if we choose not to and leave it as is for another.
So I guess if I may ask, I guess I'm not partial to one over the other, but I guess my question would be, if we want them to sit at the table and also eat from the table, does it make sense for us to create a system where they have that space to be able to have, again, that genuinely driven agenda that is theirs, but then also to be able to, in a different level beyond just Andrew's you know what I'm trying to say here. Yep. Stumbling over my words, to be able to sit through and be a part of the regular process in a much more meaningful way than just having Andrew be the mouthpiece in some ways.
And technically Andrew is supposed to be part of that process, and that's why he is at every one of our meetings.
Yeah.
So, and he is then supposed to take that back to the smaller committee where they then can dissect, digest, and that's theoretically where their agendas are supposed to come from is, you know, what we discuss here. Like it's kind of unfortunate he had to leave early before we got to the student, to the survey, because that's something that he could have brought back. I mean, and he still can, he has his packet, you know, and maybe that's an email from me to him saying, here's some notes that, you know, maybe you should consider for the student advisory committee in your next meeting, and maybe agenda items to you know, I don't want to put the words in his mouth, but I feel like where we are, I was trying to give a little leeway to them as they got the wheels going on their side of things. But I think now that, you know, we've had 2 meetings, we've had Andrew since August, maybe it's time to start kind of, you know, to Dawn's point, giving them the guidance in that space, and then Andrew kind of, I think they're understanding their role better. So I don't know. I'm fine leaving it as is currently and just continuing, and we just do that.
Well, Madam Chair, I guess one other potential option, which I think you alluded to a little bit, was maybe combining the two, making the first half an hour or whatever, their agenda items, and then if they want to stay, they can stay, and if they don't, they don't. But
Andrew would stay though for the whole.
Well, right, Andrew, but the rest of them would be free to go, and basically their meeting would, the joint meeting would end, and then the school committee meeting would start. It's just, you know, your choice is 2 nights or a longer night.
Well, I leave that to the committee and your preference. I am fine either way.
I think at the end of the day, that, and not to be, just to put it out there, I think time commitment wise, it's not going to shift much of what, if we have 3 meetings or 2 longer or 1.5 longer meetings, whatever the dynamic is there, I don't think it's going to change that portion. I think it is a philosophical question of where do we want this group to sit and how do we want them to participate in a way that provides them that agency and ability to help navigate kind of our understanding of their, you know, their feedback. You know, where do we want to support them and sit, I guess is, so I guess my recommendation would be leave the schedule as is for now, get feedback from them, and then revisit, you know, when we have a future opportunity to get that feedback from them directly.
Ryan and Matt, you agree?
Let's go that way.
Okay. Sounds good to me. And then this is just an informational piece. January 22nd, so that is in, what, 2 weeks? 3 weeks? We have the next quarterly Zoom with myself and Mr. Myers, which will be focusing on the FY25 budget and the 2024 Family Opinions Survey. So those notices, I'm sure, will go out in your communication. Any items anyone needs to bring to the table, future agenda item requests, or any other business that we did not know reasonably in advance?
Can I share one thing that you had asked me when we met earlier? So we record that Zoom and then it's on the YouTube. So the previous, the October 30th Zoom that we did had 47 views.
Dawn, let's get to 50.
They had 47 participants?
Views.
No,
people who watched it after it was
the
recorded.
participants was
How many participants?
low.
We had 3 people?
3 people.
Probably, yeah.
We had 3 people and Principal Schweitzer.
Yeah,
I think that was
Yeah.
that was our attendance.
but we did share this, you know, the link, and it's there for eternity to answer questions about what we talk about.
Maybe we'll have
the
a
role of the school committee and
elections and how to join, right?
Did that get put on YouTube or is it on?
yes, it is on YouTube. It was shared on my Friday thing too, and it is on the website. And where you look at all
Got
the
another
videos.
person to sign up for the.
All right. That being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Technically, I asked this question about.
Okay, motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Matt,
Yes?
I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. Dan,
Yes.
Dawn,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
and I also am a yes.